The stars bent and twisted as 500 warships tore through hyperspace and emerged into the Sol system. Overlord Veth stood at the command deck of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. Earth, the home of humanity. A species so primitive they had not even left their own solar system. Veth allowed himself a rare smile. This would be easy. His intelligence reports were clear. Humans were weak creatures made of soft flesh and brittle bones. They fought among themselves constantly. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no fleet to speak of. Just a single world filled with 8 billion souls waiting to serve the Korath Dominion. "Begin the broadcast," Veth commanded. His voice was deep and carried the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. The communication officer obeyed. A message was sent to every frequency the humans might use. It demanded immediate surrender. It promised mercy for those who submitted quickly and death for those who resisted. This was standard procedure. Most species gave up within hours of seeing the Korath fleet. The smart ones anyway. Veth waited. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 30. Nothing. Complete silence from the planet below. General Torak moved to stand beside his overlord. His face showed confusion. "They do not respond, my lord. Perhaps their communication technology cannot receive our signal." "Impossible," Veth replied. "We're broadcasting on every known frequency. They should be flooding our channels with panic and pleas by now." But there was only silence. Cold, empty silence. Torak turned to his tactical display and studied the data streaming across the screen. His 4 eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones, an instinct developed over 50 years of warfare. "My lord," Torak said slowly, "where are their satellites?" Veth looked at him with annoyance. "What do you mean?" "Satellites. Communication devices. Space stations. Orbital debris." Torak gestured at the display. "Every civilized world has thousands of objects in orbit. Even primitive worlds have at least a few hundred. But Earth's orbital space is completely empty. There is nothing there. It is too clean." Before Veth could respond, another officer spoke up. Her voice was tight with concern. "Overlord, our long-range communications have failed. We cannot contact the Dominion homeworld. We cannot contact any of our relay stations. We are completely cut off." Veth felt the first hint of unease touch his heart. He pushed it down. This was probably just a technical failure. These things happen sometimes. There was nothing to worry about. "Send scout ships to the surface," he ordered. "I want eyes on the ground. Find their leaders and bring them to me." 20 scout ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They flew over the great cities that covered the planet. New York, Tokyo, London, Beijing, Cairo. The cities were beautiful, Veth had to admit. Tall buildings of glass and steel, clean streets, green parks. Signs of a civilization that had built something worth taking, but the reports that came back made no sense. "The cities are empty, my lord," the scout commander reported. His voice crackled with static and something else. Fear. There are no humans anywhere. The buildings have power. The vehicles are parked neatly. There is food in the homes, still fresh. But the people are gone. All of them. 8 billion humans have simply vanished. Veth gripped the railing of his command platform. This was impossible. 8 billion beings did not simply disappear. They could not hide underground. There was nowhere to go. His fleet controlled the entire system now. "Search harder," he demanded. "They must be hiding somewhere." Hours passed. The scouts found nothing. Empty homes. Empty offices. Empty schools where children's drawings still hung on the walls. It was as if every human had stood up at the same moment and walked away, leaving everything behind. General Torak approached Veth again. His face was pale now. "My lord, I have served you for 50 years. I have conquered 30 worlds. I have never seen anything like this. This feels wrong. This feels like a trap. A trap." Veth laughed, but the sound was hollow. What trap could these primitives possibly set? They have no ships. They have no weapons. They are nothing. The communication screen flickered to life without warning. Every officer on the bridge turned to look. A human face appeared on the display. It was a woman with dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple black uniform with no decorations. She looked at Veth as if he were a child who had wandered into the wrong room. "Overlord Veth of the Korth Dominion," the woman said. Her voice was pleasant, almost friendly. "My name is Commander Mira. I speak for humanity." Veth straightened his back and tried to look commanding. "Where are your people? Why do you hide from us?" Mira smiled. It was a small smile, but something about it made Veth's blood run cold. "We are not hiding," she said. "We have been waiting for you, but not here. Earth was never our true home. It was just the door, and you just knocked." "You speak nonsense," Veth growled. "Surrender now, and I will show mercy." Mira tilted her head slightly. "You came here to conquer a primitive species. You expected to find farmers and shopkeepers trembling before your mighty fleet. Instead, you found an empty world. Does that not make you curious? Does that not make you wonder what else you might have been wrong about?" The tactical officer suddenly gasped. "Overlord, new contacts. 200 ships dropping out of hyperspace directly behind our fleet." Veth spun around. On the display he saw them. 200 vessels of a design he had never seen before. They were sleek and dark, built for speed and death. They carried no flags, no symbols. They had appeared from nowhere, surrounding his fleet like wolves around a wounded animal. "Those are not defensive ships," General Torak whispered. His voice trembled. "Those are hunting ships. We are not the predators here. We are the prey." On the screen, Commander Mira was still smiling. "You made a mistake, Overlord," she said softly. "You attacked Earth. By galactic law, that gives us the right to respond. And we have been preparing our response for a very long time. Enjoy the next few hours. They will be your last." The transmission ended. Veth stared at the blank screen, then at the enemy ships surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his long and bloody career, he felt genuine fear. Somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity had been waiting. And now, finally, they were ready to show the galaxy what they truly were. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from 47 species filled the circular chamber, their voices rising in confusion and fear. Elder Sin stood at the central platform and raised his thin arms for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to fade. "We are here to discuss the situation in the Sol system," Sin announced. His voice was old and tired. 72 hours ago, the Korth Dominion launched an invasion of Earth. Since then, we have received no communication from Overlord Veth or any ship in his fleet. 500 warships have gone completely silent. The chamber erupted again. Species that had been enemies for centuries now shared the same worried looks. The Korth were not weak. Their fleet was one of the largest in the galaxy. For them to simply disappear was unthinkable. Ambassador Rel pushed through the crowd and requested permission to speak. He was small and old, a scholar who had spent his life studying ancient records. Most council members considered him a fool who saw conspiracies everywhere. But today, something in his eyes made Elder Sin nod and give him the floor. "I have been warning this council for 30 years, Rel began. His voice was steady despite his age. "I told you that the humans were not what they seemed. You laughed at me. You called me paranoid. Perhaps now you will listen." A large delegate from the Korth's allied species stood up angrily. "The humans are primitives. They have no ships. They have no colonies. Your theories are the fantasies of a senile old fool." Rel did not flinch. He pressed a button on his control pad, and a holographic display appeared above the council floor. It showed a timeline stretching back 300 years. "Let me show you what I have found," Rel said calmly. 300 years ago, a Korth weapons factory exploded. The official cause was an accident. 15,000 workers died. 20 years later, a plague struck the Torvath military. It only affected soldiers. Civilians were untouched. The disease disappeared as quickly as it came. He pressed another button. 50 years ago, the warlord Keth of the Bloody Hand was assassinated. No one claimed responsibility. His empire collapsed within a month. The display showed dozens more incidents: explosions, assassinations, plagues, economic collapses. Each one had struck a species known for conquest and aggression. Each one had been officially explained as accident or bad luck. I spent 20 years tracing these events, Rel continued. The patterns were too perfect to be random. Someone was hunting the hunters. Someone was systematically weakening every aggressive species in the galaxy. And every trail, no matter how carefully hidden, eventually led back to one place: Earth. The chamber was silent now. Every eye was fixed on the old ambassador. Humans were never confined to their homeworld, Rel said. They have been operating in our galaxy for over 300 years. They walk among us. They work in our governments, our militaries, our businesses. They look different enough from each other that they can disguise themselves as dozens of species with simple genetic modification. We have been infiltrated so completely that we never even noticed. Elder Sin stepped forward. His face was pale. You are saying the humans have been conducting a shadow war against us for 3 centuries? Not against all of us, Rel replied. Only against those who conquer and destroy. Think about it. Which species have suffered these mysterious accidents? The Korath, who have enslaved dozens of worlds? The Torvath, who burned 3 civilizations to ash? The followers of Warlord Keth, who practiced genocide as sport? The humans did not attack peaceful species. They only targeted predators. A younger delegate spoke up, her voice shaking. But why? Why would they do this? What do they want? Rel pulled up another image. It showed a document recovered from a destroyed outpost at the edge of known space. This is called Project Blackout, he explained. It was humanity's master plan. Earth was never their only world. They have dozens of hidden colonies scattered across the galaxy, all of them completely invisible to our sensors. Earth itself was left intentionally vulnerable. It was a trap. A honeypot. Any species foolish enough to attack Earth would trigger humanity's real military response. The Korath delegate, who had insulted Rel earlier, now looked sick. You mean, we gave them exactly what they wanted? By attacking Earth, the Korath gave humanity legal justification under galactic law to wage total war, Rel said grimly. Not just against the Korath, but against any allies who supported the invasion. The humans did not break any laws. They did not fire the first shot. They simply waited for someone else to make that mistake. An emergency signal flashed on Eldersin's console. He activated it with trembling hands. A live video feed appeared in the air above the council. Every delegate gasped in horror. The Korath homeworld filled the screen. The planet was surrounded by human ships, hundreds of them. The great cities were burning. Debris floated in orbit where the defense fleet had once been stationed. The timestamp on the feed showed that this footage was only 4 hours old. It is impossible, someone whispered. The invasion of Earth began 72 hours ago. How could they have reached the Korath homeworld and destroyed it in less than 4 hours? Rel shook his head slowly. You still do not understand. The humans were already there. They were probably already there before the first Korath ship even entered the Sol system. They had been everywhere, all along. We just never saw them. Eldersin sank into his chair. His voice was barely audible. We thought we were the powers of this galaxy. We thought we understood how things worked, but we were living in a lie they created for us. The Korath did not invade a planet, Rel said softly. They poked a sleeping predator that had already surrounded them from every direction. And now that predator is awake. Now it is hungry. And I do not think it will go back to sleep until it has finished what it started 300 years ago. The council chamber remained silent for a long time. Outside, across the galaxy, humanity's hidden fleets were emerging from the shadows. The war had begun, and the galaxy was only just starting to realize how badly it had underestimated the small. Soft creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, Admiral Taiho stood alone on the observation deck of the Silent Wrath.
Watching the Korath homeworld burn below?
Orange and red light painted his weathered face. He was 63 years old, and he had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. Now that it had arrived, he felt no joy. Only a cold, grim satisfaction that the plan had worked. His great-great-grandmother had been one of the first. Back in 2045, when humanity first detected alien signals from deep space, she had volunteered to leave Earth forever. She was 18 years old. She spent the rest of her life pretending to be something she was not. Gathering information, making contacts, preparing the way for future generations. She died on a distant station, alone, never seeing home again. Taiho kept her picture in his quarters. He looked at it every night before sleep. The door behind him opened, and Dr. Subin entered. She was the chief scientist of the fleet, responsible for the technologies that had made humanity's shadow war possible. Her hair was gray now, but her eyes were still sharp and bright. "The Korath leadership has been captured," she reported. "Overlord Veth is alive. Captain Hannah is bringing him to the interrogation bay." Taiho nodded slowly. "Good. We will need his confession." Subin moved to stand beside him at the window. She watched the burning world in silence for a moment before speaking again. "The young officers keep asking me questions," she said. "They want to know how we did it, how we hid from the entire galaxy for 300 years. I try to explain, but I do not think they truly understand what their ancestors sacrificed." Taiho understood. He understood better than anyone. The weight of 3 centuries pressed down on his shoulders every single day. It had started with fear. In 2045, humanity decoded enough alien transmissions to understand the truth about the universe. The galaxy was not a place of wonder and cooperation. It was a hunting ground. Strong species consumed weak ones. Civilizations rose and fell based on their ability to kill. Earth would be found eventually, and when that happened, humanity would be enslaved or exterminated. That was simply how things worked. Most species, upon learning this, would have panicked. They would have built walls and weapons and waited for death to come. But humanity chose a different path. If the galaxy was full of predators, then humanity would become the greatest predator of all. Not through open warfare, but through patience, deception, and time. The first ships left Earth in secret. They were slow and primitive by galactic standards, but they carried something more valuable than weapons. They carried humans willing to spend their entire lives in disguise. Genetic modification allowed them to pass as members of other species. They took jobs as servants, traders, and workers. They watched and listened. They learned everything. Dr. Subin had explained the science to countless junior officers. Human DNA was remarkably flexible. With the right modifications, a human could look like almost any humanoid species in the galaxy. Their lifespans could be extended to match their hosts. They could eat the same foods, breathe the same air, blend in completely. By the time the galaxy realized what was happening, there were human agents on every major world, down in the interrogation bay. Captain Hannah was preparing to meet Overlord Veth. She was 41 years old, born on one of humanity's hidden colony worlds. She had never seen Earth with her own eyes. To her, the blue planet was a symbol, not a home. But she would die to protect it, just as her parents had, just as her grandparents had. 2 guards brought Veth into the room. The mighty Overlord looked broken now. His armor was gone. His pride was shattered. He sat in the chair they provided and stared at Hannah with empty eyes. "I do not understand," he said quietly. "We studied your species for decades. You showed no signs of advanced technology. You fought among yourselves constantly. You were perfect victims." Hannah sat across from him. Her face showed no emotion. "That was the point," she said simply. "We wanted you to think we were weak. We wanted every aggressive species in the galaxy to look at Earth and see easy prey. It made you careless. It made you predictable. But why?" Veth demanded. "Why go to such lengths? Why spend centuries hiding when you could have conquered us openly?" Hannah leaned forward slightly. "Because we did not want to conquer anyone. We wanted to protect ourselves. And the only way to do that was to make sure no one could ever threaten us." On the bridge of the Silent Wrath, Lieutenant Dongwu was reviewing intercepted communications. He was young, only 28, but brilliant at finding patterns in data. What he found made his blood run cold. "Admiral," he said, approaching Taiho, "I found something in the Korith's private channels. The invasion of Earth was not their idea alone. 5 other species secretly funded it. They were planning to share Earth's resources after the conquest." Taiho turned to look at the young officer. His expression did not change. "Names." Dongwu handed over the datapad. "The Torvath Collective, the Merchant Lords of Kess, the Syndicate of Null, the Bloodsworn of Reth, and the Council of Shadows." Taiho studied the list for a long moment. Each of these species had a history of conquest and cruelty. Each had been on humanity's watch list for generations. "Add them to the list," Taiho said quietly. "If they wanted war, they will have it." We walked to the main communication console and activated a galaxy-wide broadcast. Every species with the technology to receive signals would hear his words. "This is Admiral Taiho of the human fleet," he announced. His voice was calm and steady. "For 300 years, we watched you. We learned your weaknesses. We placed our people in your governments, your militaries, your homes. You thought you were hunting us. You were wrong. We do not want your planets. We do not want your resources. We want you to understand one simple truth. Humanity will never be prey, and now we will prove it." He ended the transmission and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, hidden fleets were preparing to move. The galaxy was about to learn that the small, soft creatures from Earth had never been small at all. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to show their true nature. That moment had finally arrived. The Torvath Collective woke to find 200 human warships floating silently above their capital city. The Merchant Lords of Kess discovered that their private banking networks had been emptied overnight. Every credit transferred to accounts that no longer existed. The Syndicate of Null watched helplessly as their orbital defense platforms shut down one by one, locked out by codes that should have been impossible to crack. The Bloodsworn of Reth opened their armories to find that their weapons had been replaced with children's toys, and the Council of Shadows learned that their shadow was not dark enough to hide from humanity. All of this happened in a single day. 24 hours of perfect coordination across thousands of light years. Decades of preparation paying off in one devastating moment. Commander Mira watched the reports flow into her command center on the hidden colony world of Nova Sol. She was 72 years old now, but her mind was as sharp as ever. For 40 years, she had built and maintained humanity's intelligence network across the galaxy. Every sleeper agent, every hidden operative, every piece of carefully planted information traced back to her careful planning. Today, she gave the order that activated them all. Station 7 confirms the Torvath Military Council has been detained, her aide reported. Station 12 reports that all Syndicate communications are down. Station 23 says the Bloodsworn leadership is in complete panic. Myra nodded slowly. "And the Council of Shadows?" The aide hesitated. "They attempted to flee. Our operatives caught them at their private spaceport. They are being transported to holding facilities now." Mira allowed herself a small smile. The Council of Shadows had thought themselves masters of secrets. They never suspected that half their servants were human agents, far across the galaxy. Elderson's ship approached the Silent Wrath under a flag of truce. The old council leader had volunteered to negotiate personally. Many had called him foolish, but Sin believed that reason could still prevent complete catastrophe. Admiral Taiho received him in a simple conference room. No decorations. No displays of power. Just 2 chairs and a table. Sin found this more unsettling than any show of force could have been. "Admiral Taiho," Sin began carefully, "the Galactic Council has voted unanimously to offer humanity full membership. We will provide territory, resources, technology, and formal apologies from every species that wronged you. We ask only that you end your attacks and allow peace to return." Taiho listened politely. His face revealed nothing. "That is a generous offer," he said, when Sin finished. "But we do not want territory. We do not need your technology. And apologies cannot undo 3 centuries of preparing for extinction." Sin leaned forward desperately. Then what do you want? Name your price. The council will pay anything to end this conflict. Taiho was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but carried absolute certainty. Reformation, he said simply. Every species that is engaged in conquest, slavery, or genocide will disarm completely. Military vessels will be scrapped. Weapons research will be monitored. Species that have been victims will be protected and given resources to rebuild. And humanity will serve as the guarantor of this new order. Sin's face went pale. You are asking us to surrender our ability to defend ourselves? No, Taiho replied. We are asking you to surrender your ability to attack others. Defense will be provided by humanity. We will protect anyone who follows the new laws. We will destroy anyone who breaks them. The council will never agree to this, Sin said weakly. Many species would rather die than give up their military power. Taiho nodded as if he expected this response. Then they will die. We have spent 300 years preparing for this moment, Elder Sin. We know everything about every species in this galaxy. Their strengths, their weaknesses, the locations of their hidden bases, the names of their secret leaders. We could have destroyed you all decades ago, but we chose to wait. We wanted someone to attack Earth first. We wanted legal justification. Now we have it. The meeting ended without agreement. Elder Sin returned to the council with Taiho's terms. As predicted, 3 species refused immediately. The Torvath, the Bloodsworn, and the remnants of the Korath military joined together to form a resistance alliance. They gathered every ship they could find, calling in favors and debts from across the galaxy. Within a week, they had assembled a fleet of 2,000 warships. They found the human fleet waiting for them. In the neutral space between star systems, 400 human vessels against 2,000 allied ships. The resistance commanders were confident. Numbers would surely decide this battle. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human weapons. Technology was 3 generations ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their shields absorbed attacks that should have destroyed them. Their guns punched through armor like paper. Their ships moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. The resistance fleet was not defeated. It was erased. Captain Hannah led the boarding team that captured the last resistance flagship. She found the Allied commanders hiding in an escape pod preparing to flee. She dragged them out personally. Why? The Torvath commander screamed at her. Why are you doing this? What did we ever do to you? Hannah looked at him with cold eyes. She thought about whether to answer. She decided he deserved to know. 400 years ago, she said quietly, your ancestors destroyed a species called the Ven. They were peaceful. They had no weapons. They simply wanted to live. Your people burned their homeworld for sport. But one ship escaped. One ship filled with refugees made it to Earth. The commander stared at her in confusion. He had never heard of the Ven. They were not even a footnote in history. We saved them, Hannah continued. We gave them a home. And they told us what was coming. They explained how the galaxy worked. They showed us what species like yours would do to us if we were ever discovered. She leaned closer. They asked us one thing in return. They asked us to make sure it never happened to anyone else. Ever. She stood up and signaled her guards to take the prisoners away. The Ven are still alive, she said over her shoulder. Only 2,000 of them now, but their numbers are growing. We protect them. And now, we will protect everyone else too. Whether you like it or not, the resistance was broken. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity's terms spread across every communication network. Disarm or die. Submit to the new order or be destroyed. There would be no negotiation. There would be no compromise. A new age was beginning, and humanity would be its architects. 10 years had passed since the reckoning. The galaxy was almost unrecognizable now. The slave markets that once thrived on 100 worlds were gone. The warlords and tyrants who had ruled through fear were dead or imprisoned. Species that had lived in terror for generations now walked freely under open skies. Trade routes that had been controlled by criminal syndicates were now safe for anyone to travel. For the first time in recorded galactic history, there was true peace. Admiral Taiho, now retired, walked slowly through the memorial garden on Earth. His hair was white, and his steps were careful, but his eyes still held the same quiet determination they always had. He stopped before a simple stone monument carved with thousands of names. These were the Ven who had died when their homeworld was destroyed. Most of them had no graves. This stone was all that remained of their memory. A young Ven child approached him cautiously. The Ven were small creatures with large eyes and gentle faces. This one could not have been more than 8 years old. "Are you the Admiral?" the child asked. "The one who saved us?" Taiho knelt down slowly, bringing himself to the child's level. "I am Admiral Taiho, yes, but I did not save your people alone. Many humans worked for many years to protect the Ven. I am just one of them." The child tilted her head. "My teacher says humans are the rulers of the galaxy now. Is that true?" Taiho smiled gently and shook his head. "No, little one. We are not rulers. We are just the ones who make sure no one else rules either. The galaxy belongs to everyone now. Every species, every world, every person. Our job is to keep it that way." The child seemed satisfied with this answer. She smiled and ran back to her family, who waited nearby. Taiho watched her go. 2,000 Ven had survived the destruction of their homeworld. After 400 years, their population had grown to nearly 50,000. It was slow progress, but it was progress. They would survive. They would thrive. Humanity would make sure of it. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Hannah commanded the peacekeeping fleet from her flagship. She was 51 now, respected and feared in equal measure. Her fleet patrolled the major trade routes, responded to emergencies, reminded everyone that the new order was not just words on paper. It was backed by the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen, Lieutenant Dongwu. Now Ambassador Dongwu served as humanity's representative to the reformed Galactic Council. He had traded his military uniform for diplomatic robes, but he still carried the same careful intelligence that had made him valuable as an officer. Under his guidance, Council had transformed from a gathering of predators to a genuine forum for cooperation. Dr. Subin had returned to research, but her focus had changed. Instead of developing weapons, she now trained scientists from across the galaxy in technologies that humanity had kept secret for centuries. Clean energy, ADVA, NST medicine, faster-than-light travel that did not require decades of study to master. Knowledge that had once been humanity's greatest advantage was now being shared freely. Commander Mira still lived. Though she was over 80 years old now, she had retired from active intelligence work, but she kept one final secret. On a quiet evening, she called her successor to her home and told him the truth. "There is something you must know," she said, her voice thin but steady. "Something that only a few people have ever learned. The history we presented to the galaxy was not entirely accurate." Her successor frowned. "What do you mean?" Mira smiled slightly. "We made ourselves seem more ruthless than we were. The assassinations, the plagues, the economic collapses, they were real, but we exaggerated their severity. Most of our assassinations were actually arrests. The people we targeted were captured, not killed. They were imprisoned on hidden worlds, kept alive and comfortable, but removed from power. Why would you hide that?" "Because fear is a weapon," Myra explained. "The galaxy needed to believe that humans were capable of terrible things. That belief kept potential enemies from testing us. It made the peace possible. But the truth is, we could have been far more brutal. We chose not to be. We chose mercy whenever we could. That is what makes us different from the species we replaced." Far away, on a small world that had once been part of the Korath Dominion, Overlord Veth lived out his final years. He was no longer an overlord. He was no longer even a prisoner. He was a teacher. Every day young Korath students came to his simple home to learn about history. Not the glorious history of conquest that their ancestors had celebrated, but the true history of suffering and shame. Veth told them about the worlds the Korath had destroyed, the species they had enslaved. The countless lives they had ruined in their pursuit of power? A human journalist visited him one day, seeking an interview for a documentary about the reckoning. "Do you hate them?" she asked. "The humans who destroyed your empire?" Veth was silent for a long moment. His face was old and tired, marked by years of regret. I thought I understood power," he said finally. "I thought it meant ships and weapons and the ability to destroy. I was wrong. The humans showed me what true power looks like. It is not the strength to conquer. It is the strength to win and then choose not to destroy your enemy completely. They could have killed me. They could have exterminated my entire species. Instead, they gave us a chance to become better." He looked out the window at the young Koroth playing in the street outside. "I do not hate them," he said quietly. "I thank them. They saved us from ourselves." On Earth, in a small house near the memorial garden, a human child asked her grandmother a question. "Grandmother, why did humanity pretend to be weak for so long? Why did we hide from everyone?" The grandmother had once been a spy. She had spent 30 years of her life living among aliens, pretending to be something she was not. Now she was simply an old woman with too many stories to tell. She pulled her granddaughter close and thought about how to explain centuries of sacrifice to a 7-year-old. "Little one, the greatest trap is not the one that catches your enemy," she said softly. "The greatest trap is the one that makes your enemy think they are the hunter. They spent centuries looking at us and seeing prey. They saw what we wanted them to see, and by the time they realized the truth, it was far too late." The child frowned. "But were we not scared? Being alone against all those big, mean aliens?" The grandmother laughed gently. "Oh, we were never alone. We had each other. Every human, on every world, working together toward the same goal. That is what they never understood. They thought we were divided because we argued among ourselves. They did not realize that our arguments made us stronger. We tested every idea. We questioned every plan. And when we finally moved, we moved as one." She kissed the top of her granddaughter's head. "Remember this, little one? Being underestimated is not a weakness. It is a gift. Let your enemies think they are stronger. Let them grow confident and careless. And when the moment comes, show them what you truly are." Outside, the sun was setting over the memorial garden. The names of the fallen Ven caught the fading light. Somewhere in the galaxy, human peacekeepers patrolled the borders of 100 worlds. Former enemies were learning to live in peace. A new generation was growing up in a universe that no longer had to be afraid. Humanity had one. But more importantly, humanity had chosen what kind of winners they would be. And that choice, more than any weapon or strategy, was what truly made them the masters of the new dawn.